But no, we just need to learn to do what is right. And God's timing is always perfect because God is never in a hurry. There's a lot of hurry up in chapter 6, but it's not the hurry up of God. It's the hurry up of humanity. God is never in a hurry. As for God, his way is perfect. I wonder, do you believe that? Not when the band is playing and the sun is shining, but when that which we've done, which we think is deserving of honor and acclaim, is largely, if not entirely, ignored. The king couldn't sleep. Secondly, we're told that the king sought advice. And the king said, who is in the court? 2 questions in a row. What has been done? Nothing. Who's in the court? Now we're told. Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the king. Dun, 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 right? I want to make sure that I get to him so that I can tell him, let's get Mordecai hanged on the gallows, then we'll have a wonderful evening at the feast. Well, little does he know as he makes his way there to the outer court of the king, that the king is also wanting to talk about what is to be done to Mordecai. So they are both wanting to do something to Mordecai. So they woke up singing, when I woke up this morning, you were on my mind. Remember that song? 1964. When I wake up, sorry for those of you who were born earlier, when I woke up this morning, you were on my mind. Who was on their mind? Both of them had Mordecai on their mind. It's remarkable, isn't it? If the king hadn't been kept from sleep, if the book had not been read, if the conspiracy within the book had not been referenced, then Mordecai would have been on his way to the gallows. If the king had asked the question he then asked differently, then Mordecai would have been a dead man. Look what he says. And Haman is there standing in the court, verse 5, and the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said to him, look at how he asked the question. What should be done to the man? He doesn't say what should be done to Mordecai. If he had said what should be done to Mordecai, remember it's Mordecai that he has on his mind. He's asked, what has been done for Mordecai? They said, nothing's been done for Mordecai. He said, then we need to do something for Mordecai. Who's in the court? Haman's in the court. Bring him in. Haman, what should be done for the man whom the king delights to honor? Once again, we see that God's purpose is brought about by those whose only view is to fulfill their own purpose. Did you get that? The purpose of God is brought about by those who are only seeking to fulfill their own purpose. You see, when you read this story, it becomes apparent that God had a plan for the deliverance of his people, even though the enemies had a plan for the destruction of the people. Isn't that right? Isn't that what we see in the unseen hand of God? The longer we read this book, the more we realize that the activity of God is unmistakable in this, and that God has a plan for his people that he has sought to execute long before this particular threat to the welfare of his people has unfolded. Now, this should be no surprise to us. Goldsworthy, in his gospel-centered hermeneutics, has a wonderful sentence or two that I wrote down years ago. This is what he says. History is not a story of God's trial of something good that failed, thus requiring him to come up with an emergency package as an afterthought. God's ultimate creation plan was not Adam and Eve in Eden, but Christ in the gospel. God's ultimate creation plan was not Adam and Eve, but Christ in the gospel. Remember Mary mistook Jesus for the gardener? It's a remarkable thought, isn't it? And it helps us so that we don't think somehow or another that God looks over the parapet of heaven, as it were, and says to himself, dear, what am I going to do now? This thing is going to get completely out of control. No, it's not. Nothing is out of control and nothing will be out of control. The hymn writer puts it, O loving wisdom of our God, when all was sin and shame, a second Adam to the fight and to the rescue came. God planned that. What should be done for the man whom the king delights to honor? The king couldn't sleep. The king asked advice. Thirdly, we're told of Haman's miscalculation. And what a miscalculation it is. Notice how it begins. And Haman said to himself, a man wise in his own eyes, there's more hope for a fool. That's what we saw last time. And so Haman is proud and he's presumptuous. When you're proud and somebody says, what should be done for the man that the king wants to honor, and you think there's nobody in the world that he would want to honor more than me, you're going to immediately assume that this must be some special package that he's put together for you. And that's exactly what he thinks. And so he outlines a plan for the exaltation of the man, not with anyone else in mind other than himself. And it's there in verses, 7, 8, and 9. We needn't rehearse it again, but it's quite remarkable, isn't it? He takes it right down to the details. Not only is he going to be dressed properly, he's going to ride a royal steed that is marked by the insignia of a royal crown, but he's going to have somebody walk in front into the square announcing the fact. If anybody would like to know the kind of thing that the king does for those that he honors, here's an illustration of it right now. And here we got to hurry up. Verse 10. Then the king said to Haman, hurry. Well, Haman had woken up hurrying. He was in a hurry when he woke up. He'd be in a hurry when he went to his bed. So no problem for him to hurry now. And if you ever imagine, we talk about somebody's jaw dropping. This is the great jaw dropping of the Bible as far as I'm concerned. And it's made all the more ironic by the way in which the king doesn't use Mordecai's name until deep into the instruction. You see that? Hurry. Take the robes, got the robes, and the horse, lovely horse, as you have said. Good idea, Haman. and do so to Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Are you kidding me? I know Mordecai the Jew, of course. Never pays homage to me, never stands up when I walk by. Mordecai the Jew? How do you think that felt for Haman? He didn't get up early in the morning to honor Mordecai, he got up early in the morning to hang Mordecai. Do you think they talked to one another during this little episode? What a parade, what a picture, what a performance. If I was Mordecai, I don't know if I could have kept quiet, right? No, shout it again, Haman. I love it when you do that. Go ahead, no. Now get to that thing about what does the king give to the one he wants to honor. I love that, do it again. Well, I can't imagine what Haman was saying. The king can't sleep. The king asks for advice. Haman's dreadful miscalculation, and finally Haman's fall is predicted. Mordecai is paraded through the town, an unsought parade, an unsought enthronement, an unsought journey on a horse. And then he just went back and sat down where he'd always sat. There's something about routine, isn't there? There's something about just faithfulness. There's something about just doing what we do. Doesn't seem like much. I do the funeral of elderly grandparents, and they always tell me, the kids and the grandchildren always tell me, you know, he always did this. He was always there. He used to sit here. This is where his Bible was. Mordecai went back to the king's gate. How different for Haman, who is hurrying again. He hurried to his house. Of course he hurried to his house. He didn't want anyone to see him. He covered his face like an arrested person trying to shield themselves from the gaze of the television cameras. He's a picture of mourning and disappointment and pain. And now he goes back to the same group of friends, to his wife Zeresh and his friends, and he told them everything that had happened. Well, they've changed their tune pretty quickly, haven't they? The end of chapter 5, well, I tell you what to do. Let's just build a gallows and hang the guy. He comes back and tells them this, and they say, well, don't look at us. We don't know what to do. In fact, the purposes of God will be fulfilled for his people. We've understood that. We've learned that along the way. And if this is Mordecai the Jew before whom you have begun to fall, frankly, your destiny is written. Well, that's really the end of it. Observation number 1. Surely as we pay attention to this, we are reminded that we need to trust God in the matters of timing and in the matters of apparent delay. Remember, God is never in a hurry. God's time is the right time. Mordecai might have had reason to think, well, this would be a good time for them to have a party for me after 4 years has gone by. No, but God knew exactly what he was doing. Kidner, in his little commentary on the Psalms, says all of God's delays are maturings, either of the time or of the man.